Welcome to Board Ghost, a story broadcast with games as the engine.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying don't agree with me, no. Dying don't agree with me, no. All you board ghosts, come with me, we're going home.
We believe you're out there, hungry for stories for shared experiences. We can't see you, can't hear you, yet we will play for you. This night's offering is Downfall. To learn more about how we generated our story playing the game of Downfall, go check out our primer episode. Our humble players tonight, myself, John Holt.
And with you as always, Ken Breeze, and our awesome super special guest.
Hey, I'm Jocko Farino.
All right, welcome, Jocko.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to share this game with you. So,
Always great to have you here.
So the first phase is world building, and that generates your initial structure. And then from there, you go into the story. And this, again, there's enough structure, even without dice, to kind of guide you through play and keep everyone sort of tight-knit and working together. So the heart of our world that we're going to build is going to be the Flaw.
Yeah.
And again, these are sweeping sort of general concepts. Do you want to read a few of those off from
Oh,
the
yeah.
from the
Let me read a
examples?
few of the examples off. These are great. So these are sort of the root of our society, which is this flaw. It could be anything from greed to distrust to nationalism, materialism, selfishness, vanity, classism, those types of things.
Jocko, looking at those, what are you gravitating towards?
I'm gravitating toward sort of a non-seven deadly sin, a materialism, something sort of grounded in
Yeah.
a
great.
concrete.
So now this is the heart. This is what the traditions and the structure and the civilization of this haven, this, whether it's a city or a planet or a place or a whatever, a bubble in time.
Yep.
Now, what we need to do is get a little more gritty in defining it.
Yep.
And so what we're going to do in this next step is choose our elements.
Right.
And so each one of us is going to come up with an element and throw that in the mix. We'll kind of think of those separately. And then that will kind of inform the next phase, which will be, well, initially sort of saying, well, how do those elements work together? What does this world look like, feel like? What is it built upon? How do these elements play out in this world?
We want to get really gritty, like John said, and those are exactly the things that we want to start to define once we get these elements down, is how they interplay together, and then how our world actually looks, feels, smells like, things like that once we start to get those elements together finally.
Ken, why don't you read off? There's a big old
I
table
would
of
love
elements.
to.
So read us some excerpts.
So as John was saying, the haven is what we're looking to create now. The haven is the place where the society is that we'll be exploring. So we have something like rain, or something like ink, or something like clouds, steel, something like sky or water, islands. Empire is one, grave is one, hills, blood is one. So anything that's
Very
sort of
cool.
like an element of this world, like what it's made out of,
Right.
its ooey gooey substance.
Yeah, and they give you a pretty broad list of them, and then in the back of the book, they do have kind of good little like customizing your elements or customizing any of these things,
Right.
and they do have good descriptions of these. So elements should be things or ideas that we can sense.
Yeah.
Colors, materials, sounds, natural phenomena,
Yeah.
and tools make strong elements. Furthermore, an element should not be a specific person, place, or thing, e.g. Bob, the Eiffel Tower, the Constitution. It should also not be an abstract idea, e.g. history, affection, democracy, etc., because those more abstract ideas are actually closer to being a flaw.
All right, yeah. Mine's echo.
Echo. Nice.
Yeah, I really like that. Echo is a big part of our world.
Cool.
Echoing.
Mine is
Echo.
dust.
Dust.
Awesome. Mine was magnets.
Magnets. That's
Whoa.
cool, man.
All right.
Yeah.
How do they work?
I don't know.
We're going to find out. Well, let's write these things down.
Yes.
Echo, dust, and magnets. Those are the elements of our world where the haven exists. So now that we have those things, like it really is like, let's define this place exactly, what the haven is, where it's situated, what's going on there. Well, I'm getting a vision of a vast cavern,
I was thinking the same thing.
if you guys are on that wavelength.
Yeah, whether it's like man-made or excavated or found, but yeah, something, because to have echo you need to have walls at all, like,
Right.
and there has to be enough space for the sound to travel and bounce back.
Yeah.
Echo can also be repeated patterns, like
Right.
things built upon things. It can be something
Yeah.
like almost an extraction or something that follows itself in terms of like how we build or how we deal with our society.
Yeah, definitely repeating or copying, echoing or, like, or just, really trying to aspire to be something from the past. Maybe you could even go that way. I mean, that one's really, So what about the idea that the world is covered in dust or something like that?
I mean, dust. So dust could be something that's falling from the sky.
Right.
It can be persistent layers of time. It can be some foreign element that's just pervasive.
I was thinking like magic fairy dust or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair
That was
too.
jumping in my mind.
I mean, that's something we can also play with is, do we want to have, like, we can kind of, before, like, to keep ourselves contained, we can also say, like, hey, do we want to play in a more fantastic world? Do we want to play in a more sciencey world?
Right.
Like,
That's true.
That might give us, or do we want to play in a mundane world? Are the magnets magical? Are they science? Like, is it our, like, current sort of hard science, like, alternative present kind of stuff with, like limited science fiction, or is it like real science fantasy kind of stuff?
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm definitely more Cockian right now than I, would be sort of like Roddenberry. I'm down for either. I was just playing Dark Sun, and we have like silt seas. Maybe there's seas of dust. That instead of water, there's dust that covers the whole fucking planet. And they're whatever, island chains, rocks, or whatever, jut out that people live on. And that's maybe where echoes get really important, is communication between these things.
That they have to, like, they live on these juts of rock, almost like the dust is like a river. It's almost more abrasive. It's like sandy. And so it's like slicing up the earth even more. So there's really like crazy deep grooves everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
And people live on these fingers of earth that are just kind of stretch up, like, they're butts and plateaus.
Yeah.
Right. And those could even be sort of where we get into the magnets of it, these like magnetized rock, that's sort of
Right. Like
potentially
maybe that.
even lifting itself off of the earth, repelling instead of attracting.
Yeah. And maybe the dust has some magnetic properties as well. Like that's why it flows.
Yeah, that's
Right.
There's like
exactly
certain
right.
like lane, like it's very ferrous.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about a world that is covered in dust, except for very few spaces made out of rock. But there are some specific places that actually repel out of the dust because they have magnets built into their rock, or that is in their rock beneath them. I mean, magnets are great then, because that means that you can use them to repel the dust. And that means diving into the dust, stuff like that.
It could even be under the dust.
Or
right?
or even inside it, and that's your cavern is actually almost like a bubble under this quote water.
Yeah.
That's
like a
maintained
grotto.
with magnets.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's maybe like these sort of plateau things. Or do you want it to play with, or again, we can play with like them being more skyborn and
underground,
and have the like communication between their networks.
Yeah.
Other cities or other parts
I love
of
it.
the world.
I love it that there's the idea of an underworld and above ground world. And so those, but magnets figure into both. So
Right.
we get the floating islands and we get the grottos. So we have under the sea, quote unquote, living, and above the sea living.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. And then the sort of people who have to travel between them, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love the idea of to tap into our larger flaw of materialism.
Materialism.
Of the idea that sort of the underground or the above ground, but just for conversation's sake, that the underground would be the place to be. Sort of like if you live above ground, you don't have as much as people who live underground, is something we could potentially explore. And our haven could be in the underground then.
Right. I mean, you could have multiple tiers of strata where it's like if there's I don't know how, I mean, this gets a little fantastic, but, if there's a magnetic force strong enough to repel the dust, maybe that's where your, like, your halves live.
Right.
And then in this floating thing above that, that's maybe even the force of the magnet, that kind of like, it's almost like that, one of those balancing top kind of things, is another city that's connected, but is also, maybe another class of people live up there. They could be like you're saying, the lower class, or the true nobles, and then anyone who lives outside of either of these two places are outsiders.
We're talking about two different societies, right? So we should talk about the haven as a place where these two societies come together. And so what I'm liking is this idea of our haven being the place where they meet, right? It is a giant cavern, but it's also an exit into the above ground world, I guess. So maybe that's where we get the levels that you're sort of talking about in some ways.
Yeah, I mean, it could be that. I mean, materialism. There could also be like a market. Like there's trade.
This is the
and so
place.
this is like the hub for whether it's like no one's allowed down in the cavern, and so everyone floats over to the thing.
Materialism. So I mean, how do we want? I guess we'll get to it with traditions. I think we're getting there. I'm interested to find out some more things. All right, let's talk about how this place smells, tastes. What's going on? We kind of know that people are living in magnetized air and realms that are the dust can't enter, basically. So I think that if they're underground, then it's going to smell like they're underground, I guess, to some degree. And if they're above ground, it'll be windy, right? I guess.
Yeah. So the question is, how do they stay hydrated?
Yeah. Right. How do they stay hydrated? That's
like,
a great question.
If they need water, is it something that they tap from underground? Is it something they like capture from the air above the dust?
Well, I mean, so I guess maybe...
Do they have moisture farms?
Right. We should tie it into something. I think echo is something we really haven't plumbed. And so maybe that's really where we need to go with that piece of it, is that there's some sort of like echo magic or some shit like that creates water, or who knows what. Like maybe that's the way. It's like that's the mystical shamanistic part of the society.
Yeah, maybe they use, like, it's using magnets and sounding, like the whole, there's something they use that creates a lot of sound that when it reflects the sound properly, that's how they're, like, again, we're going to get into traditions a little bit, but maybe it's like they source out materials from the very earth.
Right.
From using, like, echolocation.
Yeah, maybe echolocation. That's really great because they're looking for, so then that says to me that maybe our society has figured out how to move magnets and place them, because they would be then looking for water with echolocation, and they're going to find water, and that's maybe could even tie into where some of these huge pieces are lifting off, because the magnets are sort of a part of that to some degree as well.
Right. That's interesting that this society that we've created could be, making things worse potentially.
Right. Or have put them in the situation they're in to begin with.
So materialism gets really important there, because what we're really talking about is water scarcity, I guess, in some ways. And so that's...
Well, also, magnets are power, quite literally in this world.
Yeah,
so finding more of them and maybe keeping, like, electromagnetic coils charged, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah,
electromagnetic coils, sure.
I love the thought of, like, you can't wear metal. You can't have any metal in this world, right? If the sea is magnetic and there's magnets all around you, so...
Yeah, metal isn't really a part of this world.
Everything could be this weird sort of plastic or bone, or
cloth,
depending if we want to go futuristic.
These people in Haven, in this world, which we don't know the name of yet, melding of two different societies, right? The underground society. Or is it more like we started underground and we went above ground, or we started above ground and we went underground? Probably more like that, if being above ground is bad.
Well, I mean, it's a question, too, of, like, if
we forged into the underground and it's much better here.
I mean, maybe
we lifted great things, or,
like a lot of the holes and a lot of where all this ferrous, like, dust came from is from excavation, like pulling these magnets out of the ground and moving earth around. So they sort of created the environment in which they're forced to live.
Yeah. But they wanted to. They wanted to use the magnets to find the water underground. And are we sort of there?
I think there's enough to do with traditions. That way we can kind of let it go from there. So
let's let it go from there.
So the next step is going to be our traditions. So initially we'll pick a category, and they have a pretty broad list of categories here, like architecture, art, birth, communication, death, economics, education, employment, entertainment, family, fashion, food, government, grief, hospitality, justice, love, military, naming, relationships, religion. So you have a huge, basically all the aspects of culture.
Right.
In the first round, the sort of one rule is none of us can have the same category.
Yeah.
So you'll pick your category and write that down from the list, tell everyone what it is, write in small letters in the top corner of your index card, and we don't choose the same category. Then we actually create the tradition around that category. So we can go in any order for doing that part.
Well, I think I'm going to go with justice.
I'm going to go with grief.
Grief. I'm going to go with entertainment. Now we're going to write down, since everyone's done something different, you write down what it is, and it can be brief, and then we'll actually kind of pitch it out and get a little more into the heart of it so that everyone understands where you're coming from.
Since we were talking a little earlier about making a real definition between the outlands and the undergrounds, I wrote that the guilty are banished to the winds, meaning the above ground world. That is a big tradition in the justice of.
Now, is that effectively a death sentence?
I don't think so. I think you can. You're just banished, right? You're banished to the winds. So it's like.
So is that like above the dust?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe throwing someone in the dust. Is that what you're thinking? Because I'm down with that.
I mean, if you put someone in, I guess what I'm seeing, you put someone in the dust and it may like scour the skin from the bones.
Exactly.
Right.
Of course.
Like that kind of.
Of course. It more means that you're banished from the below ground world, that you can't ever live in the embrace of the magnets anymore, I guess.
So you're kind of left a wanderer.
So here's definitely. Your magnets are stripped. I'm going to give it a little bit more, that people wear personal magnets to repel dust. And if you're in the winds in the above ground world, you don't have magnets. You don't get them.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
I'll go next. So mine is entertainment. The skim racers compete for clan resources and glory.
Ooh.
Yes.
So they're basically people who fly up, out, and through the currents of dust.
Yes.
And they're the ones who are kind of couriers between the outside world or any sort of floating upper areas of the world and the cavernous bowl or depression within the protected areas of this world. And they, sort of like in Easter Island, to keep themselves fit and to sort of prove their worth, and also to kind of call the herd, they have these competitions where the fastest and the best amongst them compete for prizes, which could be, I'm kind of seeing this world maybe having clans.
Yeah, like Crank It. Yeah, I like clans, and they vie for power, right? They vie for who runs the world, maybe. I mean, we could really, materialism then really comes in, because then we're talking about what types of craft you can buy, and we're talking about like people idolizing this stuff and like being way into like buying the type of stuff. And actually, like, that's
a really great point too, because our tradition should go to the heart of the flaw.
Yeah,
too. They should really work from that.
Yeah.
So,
very cool. Awesome.
So that's a great concept too. That it's more than just like glory and resources. It's also like the heart of this is everyone's trying to have. Whether it's have control, which is really over the magnets, which they're trying to get more over the other resources. And so this vying, this competition, you get groups of, sort of these little, like, not maybe fiefdoms, warlords, whatever.
Yeah,
cool.
But they're like clans within this world that they all share the streets, they all share the world. But
so the haven has to be where they're racing then, because we need a central location for the haven.
Yeah, I mean, it's that, or that's like all the clans live in the haven. So it's sort of like,
do it that way, I guess.
Like you're in a clan, you're in the haven.
Okay. Yeah.
And then the skim racers are your eyes, ears, and they're
champions.
They're the champ. They're sort of like your king, or your I don't know what they like, your lords, your knights.
Yeah.
And they're zipping around.
Your knights. Yeah, definitely. And okay.
Cool.
And they win glory and stuff for your clan, which allows it to gain more followers.
Well, they find new deposits. Maybe they find new places.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing too, is getting. It's like this is a world that is a living gold rush,
right?
Where people are just
I like that.
Racing to claims. They're racing like.
Everyone's on the move. Yeah, looking for the next.
I mean, the whole haven could move too.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause it's just a matter of moving the magnets.
That's funny. I mean, that's why I like the idea that the haven, has something to do with the connection between the above ground and the below ground world. But I don't know. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So there's clans. I like that too. That's good. What about you, Jocko? What'd you write?
So for grief, I wrote, no one grieves the cavern folk.
Ooh, so that's a tradition that goes to the materialism of the world.
Right.
So that means that it probably you spare no expense when you're grieving someone.
Right. Right.
And so you would not be using any money, right?
Yeah,
What
I
else
would
do you
think.
think about the cavern
Yeah,
folk?
and I would think that, there's that was sort of at the heart of it, especially tying it back into the materialism, that it's funny to be materialistic in a resource in a not a resource rich environment.
Right.
There's no sort of grieving, it's just how can we use you,
Well, that's the thing too. Our cavern folk, like if we have these clans, these guys who walk in these magnet depressions or whatever and fly around and look for resources, are the cavern folk a
Something
different
else.
class?
Yeah, exactly.
Are they the
That's
people
what I
who
was thinking of,
they
too.
live in? They're almost like conservationists
Yeah.
who are trying to like
Live without magnets? Is that
and or also be like, this eternal quest for more of this power, more of these resources is what's made the world the mess it is. And so these are guys who are like almost more druidic and
Right.
sort of, they live in the caverns. They're trying to like maintain a balance, try to regrow life, try to bring things back to a balance.
That's cool. So this is I'm getting a real sort of lobster vibe right now, where like you leave the society and go join the cavern folk.
So like, so here's a question. Like, you would probably grieve a skim racer who dies.
Yeah.
You would probably grieve even someone who's like stripped and cast out. But like
Right.
once you go cavern folk, you're casting aside all the constraints
Right,
of
because you could be
society, right? So that's why you wouldn't be grieved.
Right,
Does that
because
sound?
That makes sense to me. Yeah. I mean, because you could be cast out because of something and long to return to the, to your materialistic ways, to the culture that you came from, but to sort of turn your back on that whole system is, I guess, by those in the system considered like one of the biggest sins that you could do.
Right, because
Yeah.
then effectively too, if people are this is their survival,
Right.
that's also, you're like turning your back on what's maintaining and sustaining everyone.
Something's been in my mind since the beginning, and I'm just going to put it out there, that there's like pirate truce. Like all these different clans are like have a truce with each other, and this is how they represent their competition, is through these races. But that means that they can maraud anybody else out there. Like they have little regard for cavern folk or people who live above ground in the winds.
Yeah, it's
And
sort of again,
sorta-
it's like, if to go back to the gold rush analogy,
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like two prospectors staking a claim aren't going to care about the indigenous people who just so happen to be using that land. They're going to shoot them and not care.
Yes,
Like
that's very
it's-
true. I think the world is it's very cutthroat in that way. But there's a weird honor, I guess, to some degree, if you're with your clan, I guess.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, so that's a question. So if you're cast out
Right.
in justice,
Yeah.
and you're stripped of your magnets, are you also stripped of your clan?
Yes, of course. Yeah, exactly. That's one of the worst parts, for sure.
So then so what makes you, I guess the difference between a cast out and a cavern folk
Is that
choice versus force?
choice versus,
I
so like
think
one is
that-
almost like a Ronin.
I think
versus
anyone who's banished can somehow make it back, because that's a great legend, and people love stories like that, where like pirate captain was cast out and then got all this favor and returned and
built a clan
yeah,
of outsiders.
exactly,
and rocked his way
whatever,
back in.
yeah, exactly, whatever it is. Like that, I think that there's a romanticization of people who are banished above, whereas if you're cavern folk, you're just like you're
non.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're non. Like
That's cool.
we don't mourn you.
Cool. So now we'll pass these and add an element to them. Excuse
Yes.
me. That adds like a grounding.
Yes.
All right. Well, here, we started with justice, so I'll go into the definition on that. So justice, the guilty are banished to the winds and stripped of their magnets and clan. And the piece that I've left is, you're allowed to keep your birth lodestone.
Yeah.
So at birth, you're given, like, it's
Yes.
actually almost like
Yes.
planted on you. I don't know whether it's something that you like have physically
I like
attached.
Where is it? Forehead, like collarbone,
Yeah,
wrist,
I'd say like collarbone or even belly button.
belly button.
Like it's just kind of
Lodestone.
like a
put in
troll
your
doll.
belly button.
troll doll.
Because it's like your core
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
So, and that's sort of the thing. Like maybe the cave people, they discard their
Discard their lodestone. Yeah.
So that's like
Right.
an ultimate example. So the reason why these, like, if you have some magnet, like maybe that keeps a little bit like it gives you like a small amount of protection against the dusts, and that's the way that these guys, if they're ever going to come back, it's a kernel of something to grow on.
Yeah.
You know, it's a known thing, and it's separate from clan because birth and clan maybe are two different things. I don't want to get into that unless we deal with tradition. But if you guys have any other questions about that, also I drew a little lodestone.
Nice.
I'll go on the belly
Awesome.
button.
So to build off of entertainment, skiff racers compete for clan resources and glory on their hover sleds.
All right.
And so there are these specific sort of very large kind of sleds inlaid with magnets and can be controlled and are actually, sort of very fiddly. And it takes a lot of finesse to race and a lot of sort of acrobatics and sort of physical acumen to be able to do this.
Cool. Well, maybe would it be
sleds.
something like there's a variation in the racing sleds are the most like those are one man jobs, like they're X-wings or whatever, right?
And that's almost even like, really kind of getting into daredevil territory or like risk taker territory.
Barnstorming kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Cool. So for grief, no one grieves the cavern folk. I wrote down name struck from heart chalice of the family, meaning if someone goes cavern folk, that their name is struck from this item that sort of has resonance amongst the people who belong to that family, which is a chalice that has everyone's name carved into it and that they sort of drink out of at certain occasions because water is so important to the society.
So here's a question. Can you have, like, there's families and clans. Can there be a family with different family members in different clans?
I mean, for me, the way I was thinking about it is that a clan is really big. So there has to be discrete units within that. Your family would.
Oh, I like that idea. Maybe that's sort of almost like the opposite of, or the inverse of what John said, in that, there maybe it's more likely that there would be many different families in one clan than there would be for a family to have, members in separate clans.
Yeah.
And therein lies space for drama,
Right,
in a family that does. I also
Right.
like the idea of, it's not just a big deal for you if your name is stricken from your family chalice.
Right.
Like maybe there's one family that has like a few too many crossouts on it, and people are beginning to be like, "What's wrong with this family?"
Totally.
Like it's even a social symbol for the family themselves.
Totally.
There's a
I
family.
would say there probably is a clan heart chalice, right? Like one that symbolizes the clan that like the leader of that clan have or whatever. Like you could take it that far.
All right.
We'll see.
Cool.
One round of traditions down.
All right. Next
so
round.
now,
traditions.
new round of traditions. New round of. We get to pick a category again. We don't want the same category. We can go into these categories again if we want to, but within ourselves on this round, we shouldn't be doing new categories.
Great. So I'm interested in military.
I'm going to choose birth.
I'm gonna say architecture.
Nice. All right. Birth. Clan lines, incredibly important. Cross clan is stigmatized but common.
Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot.
Unrelated to this, but I was thinking too that we have this sort of lodestone and this cup thing.
Yeah.
That one resource people could fight for is that the family cups get you can like win, whether they're bequeathed by the clan or whatever. You can win more lodestones and therefore be allowed to have more children within the family.
Awesome.
Yes.
And so when you get them crossed off, it also like reduces the sort of cap because you only have so many names you're allowed to
and
give.
materialism fits right in there. That family and children are a resource.
Like you can
to
add
use
more
to
names and more
maximize,
stones to the cup, and as names are crossed off, you're reduced in the number of family you're allowed to keep.
So if you become a cavern folk, you have your lodestone stripped from you.
Well, you cast it
you cast it
aside,
Oh,
and
yeah.
your family
This one
loses
goes-
the chance to have that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
To have that extra
Yeah.
kid.
That could even set up a whole side trade of people like,
Giving their
scouring the
lodestones.
outskirts for discarded lodestones.
Or killing people for their lodestones,
Oh,
or who
yeah.
even knows what, like crazy shit. Like the lodestone is the ultimate material.
But sorry for that tangent. So
No, I love it.
Let's
That's great.
roll back on birth. Read it for me again, please.
Birth, clan lines, incredibly important. Cross clan, stigmatized but common, meaning cross clan marriage or intermarriage.
Right.
Now, is that true for like stigmatized in terms of like you're giving up? Like, is it's something where, I'm the king of a clan,
Yeah.
and I'm going to, I absorb another clan
Right.
and allow some of them to marry in at the lower rungs, like your own, like, or is it the kind of thing where I'm going to arrange that my daughter and this guy
I think that it
marry
depends
in
on
and
what
combine?
level of society you're how it benefits your advancement for materialism, how it benefits your advancement for doing what you want to do. So I would think it would be different levels of society, but I think that they make a choice that they live in one place. So you live only with one clan. So yeah, there's like there's like trade between clans, like, okay, this many marriages this year, maybe even like quotas and stuff like that at this point.
I love
Like
that.
it's stigmatized but common. So it's
are there
like
dowries attached to marriages?
Yes, 100%. And like I go live in Jocko's clan hold, and I'm not from there,
Right.
So there's a stigma.
Right. And I love the idea, my mind initially shoots to like, Kurosawa's Ran, like red, yellow, blue, but I actually like the idea better of like, no, there are like, this is such a materialistic culture where these little things are so important. I love the thought that there could be 40 clans
Right.
in this small community, or a
Right.
large community. We never described really.
Right. I
The idea that it's
we're-
like
we're-
comically
we're-
flooded.
I think we're discussing a world at this point. We're discussing a large society. It's
Yeah.
not really
Yeah.
confined to one part of the world. Like, I'm getting a real Flash Gordon vibe, where there's all these different parts of that universe.
Yeah.
Cool.
So mine was architecture, and every structure is a variation on a mag float. So it's a completely nomadic moving society.
Amazing.
Oh,
So you have these like
yes.
magnets that are even themselves like those are dragged or floated to kind of keep everything encased in out of the dust, and all the structures that you have also are moving along with this and keeping pace. And some of them can kind of, it's almost like a boat city where you have these larger, bigger ships that other ships are moored to, and they may even pull along the smaller ships. And so your clan may be this interconnected, interwoven group of these flotillas that just kind of
Right.
like move along in this bubble inside the Ferris dusts.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So how do they interact with the caverns?
Well, I guess I was seeing the caverns as like there's sort of two levels of caverns. They're the ones that there's the stuff that's being carved constantly by the Ferris dust. And then there's like the underground bits where like that's where the cavern folk go and live, and that's where a lot of the resources are. So there might be like these big sort of excavated pieces that are either waiting to be exposed to the world or are just sort of like big holes that have been mined and quarried for
Right.
their resources. And up above, so like in this layer above are these trolling bands of cities that are like just almost like walled in, bubbled in inside the dust, or in a big cylinder or whatever, with the
Right.
magnets keeping the dust at bay. And they kind of move along with these scouts zipping around
Yeah.
looking for more resources
And
as
watching-
the whole flotilla moves to the
Yeah.
next spot for more resources. And the cave people are living in the caverns trying to restore or maintain
Right.
some other kind of life, because this is a decimated place. And so even the ground itself is just, you can't really walk on the ground. Like you can walk on these plateaus way above, but it's just like scored like worm trails everywhere from excavation and from this dust. Like if you when you pour like water down a dirt thing and you get those runnels, and
Right.
it's just these little, like the whole ground is just a mass of this stuff.
Yeah, and I love the idea of, like the pirates being able to follow those bubbles as they're moving, and be on the lookout for these sort of bubbles of civilization as they're sort of going through the dust, if they're above the dust.
Yeah, like more aggressive, like pirate bands.
More, yeah.
Right.
Bad guys. Naughty.
Yeah, renegades for sure, because I think, there's cavern folk can be renegades. There's all different types of renegades.
Banished people.
And so I think
sure.
we're talking about like sort of 3 different sort of ways to live right now, and I just want to be sure. We're talking about living in caves that are have magnets in them that sort of banish the dust away. We're talking about floating flotillas of ships that are encased in magnets, and we're talking about magnet covered or concealing islands that float above the dust. Have we talked about all 3 of those things?
Yeah, the landmass thing, we could have that still. It may have
Okay, I'm happy to have that fall away. Okay, cool.
I kind of imagine that the first and the second were the same thing.
Yes. Yeah.
That they were these, there's this sort of bubble that's created, but that is a whole moving unit.
It's like a moving cavern.
Yeah.
Right.
Into itself. And then the other, like the cavern folk are the ones that live in these like worm tunnels, basically, these excavation points.
Well, I think the echolocation gets really important then, right? Because it's like being able to navigate when you're completely covered in dust.
Right, like you have no markers
Right.
outside of like...
Right.
And that's the question too, do the bubbles move themselves, or are they, do they have these magnets on, chains that they're moving along, and as they move them, the whole society moves?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was thinking about that earlier myself. I feel like it's a type of thing where either we have to go where they're like self-powering it, like with rows, with oars or something like that, or it's some sort of magical machine that they just have that moves these things around. Because we can get into the idea of like engines and whatever knots and speed and stuff like that.
It could even be technology that's gone so far.
It's a little magic-y.
That it's almost magic-y, that it then collapsed, and could have been clean.
Well, yeah,
magnet energy.
The society would have perfected mining and using what they mine to turn into great stuff. Not so
travel.
Much so that ore is a part of their very body at this point, right?
Right.
And
maybe they found a way to like refine or hyper agitate magnets.
I think exactly.
So they're like purified,
exactly.
Or this planet just has purified magic.
They know how to get magnets to interact with each other to propel themselves forward. I think that these people, know how to use what they have, what they're pulling out of the ground still to this day, as much as they can.
And the more they
they're
do that, the
looking
more
for water,
ferrous dust gets kicked
they're
up.
looking for magnets, belly stones, they're looking,
Right.
Yeah, they're trying to keep their clan alive. So I like the idea that they're like maybe like roving flotillas, exactly, and then like clan holds, or are the flotillas like their holds?
Yeah, I was wondering if like maybe these bubbles are very rare, or maybe this is the only one.
I like that because we really need to have a haven.
Like
and
maybe the bubble is the only one, and because these it's a massive thing that kind of like flows through these caverns.
And all the clans are welcome there, and so that's where they have the races.
Yeah, like in and around. And again, if this is a moving place, the races could be a matter of like who can get to the resource faster than the others. And then not only do you get to decide, does that determine who gets first dibs at stuff, but it could also determine like where maybe it's a race like you have to run out and find something and come back.
Yeah, totally.
Else. So it may be like not a total parallel race as much as whoever goes and finds the biggest mother load and brings back the proof their clan gets to move the city towards that mother load, and the clan gets first dibs on that.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
cool.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah, that's sweet. Okay, cool. I feel like we're doing real good at this point.
And so now, Jocko, we have your tradition.
Yeah, so my tradition, military, the clan heads all answer to the Lord of many goodly things.
What? Oh, boy.
Wow.
There's like this this figurehead, and we can talk about whether this is a real person or sort of a
Religious
created.
Well, it's
created
military.
construct.
It's military,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
The clan heads all
So there
answer
is-
to Lord of many goodly things. So
So
the Lord
there's
of
like-
many goodly things has to be part of the Haven then, right?
I did mean that in the sense of like a king, not like a god. So yeah, I would say that, there are all these clans, but there's one person who has so much stuff that person is sort of the king of this flotilla.
So the question is, how do they become the king of the flotilla would be one, and then two, how do they maintain the
Right.
status of how do there's all these greedy people all around you. How do you hold on to the position of are you the king of the clan leaders? Like you're the master clan, or
Right.
Elucidate.
Yeah, so you are the sort of the master of all of the clans, and I would imagine that to, keep everyone at bay, that person would have to have so much that it's awe-inspiring. A person with, $1,000 will get robbed, but a person with $1 billion is looked at like an unearthly figure.
So military is a tradition. So I'm really looking at this like this is the Lord of many goodly things is like the mercenary master, like the mercenary warlord who the other clans go to purchase mercenaries from. And also that this title is just taken up by the next person to take it over. Like there have been many lords of many goodly things over the years, and it's just sort of something that the new mercenary warlord takes on. And so that's one way that people who are banished to the winds can find fame again. Probably not so much the cavern folk, but it's just sort of like this alternate way of living, right? Where you're clanless or who knows what, or you're a mercenary or who knows what your deal is, and you work for this guy on the flotilla, but the flotilla also has presences of all the other clans who are there vying for this power with their skiffs. So it's like he owns.
Is he a clan leader then? Like how does he maintain his is basically, so I guess the question would be like, is his wealth in that he basically owns and controls through might the actual things that maintain the bubble?
I think so, and I think that somebody has to.
Those are the many goodly things.
Yeah, those are the many
biggest
goodly
men.
things. Yeah, and if all the clans are competing for resources, somebody has to sort of oversee the competition,
And they're a little above the fray.
Yeah, above the fray. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then so militarily, he would
He can
maintain
destroy
order
any
too.
other clan, I think. It's like if you get into the bad graces of the Lord of many goodly things, it's happened in the past maybe, that he'll rally the other clans to destroy you.
Is he also is this
Or
military arm this thing, the Lordis?
Yeah, I mean...
are they also the ones who mete out justice?
I mean, that makes sense to me.
Makes sense to me. A clan would be, or a family or clan would be sort of reticent to cast somebody out.
That's true. They would be reticent to cast someone out.
So it has to kind of come from someone outside of the clan structure who has...
Yeah. There are other ways to discipline
sway.
people, for sure.
Yeah.
They would be the one to put them on trial and decide their fate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so then they kind of run this group of... Do they have their own? Is there you're saying mercenaries? But are these mercenaries basically the police? And you can buy
that's a good way to
kind of buy
I
their
think that's a great
power?
way to put it. Yes, yeah.
So it's
but the
like
thing
a
is,
military police.
the Lord of many goodly things knows not to give one person all of his or her forces unless they want to destroy somebody, and then they get everybody together to do that.
Yeah, I mean they may have all the clans everyone has to go against this.
Right, exactly.
Lest they themselves.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. I mean, we can also think of it like he or she does have the nuclear option as well, in that if they've got so much of this material that keeps things afloat, that if a clan really gets out of hand, they can
be cast to the winds.
Overload it, right? And sink it or
right.
Use this material.
Expel them from the
Maybe there's a legend that happened in the past.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So we'll pass these to the left and throw a something in there. So I'll start with birth because we started with your birth before. So clan lines, incredibly important. Cross-clan is stigmatized but common. So my conceit in my specific thing is that clan stones are kept even when marrying into a new clan.
Yeah.
So if, I'm in whatever, we'll get into names, I guess, at some point. But if I'm in
If you're Doorg 5.
if I'm in the Doorg clan and marrying into the Vent clan, then I would keep my org stones, and it would only be until like I have children or until maybe I earn new stones in the clan that I'm able to replace those stones.
Yeah. I
And
like
clan stones are almost, what is that? The stone that
Ion stones? Is
no,
that
like
what you're
in
talking about?
India, the stone that you wear in your forehead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I'm totally bindi. Birthstones are very personal,
Right.
and so kept sort of like your closest family and people who you are intimate with will see your birthstone. That's
Right.
kind of it. Like that's
But
exposing.
your clan stone is
Your clan stone is
seen by
present,
all.
and there
Right.
and the
Cool.
more the more accolades and the higher you are in your clan, the more clan stones you accumulate.
Oh, so
Awesome.
people have stones
So
embedded in
so
their
you
faces.
kind of start with your initial like clan in the center, and then it sort of like patterns out
Sure.
from there. And maybe in this world there are different kinds of magnetism, and so like like Pokemon or whatever, like
Yeah.
this type attracts to this type,
Yeah,
and this
could
type
be.
repels to this type.
Could be. Yeah,
And-
but there are these sayings about relations between clans
And
based
so
on their clan
yeah,
stones.
and so if you live
that
with,
makes perfect
if
sense.
you have a
With
clan
the
stone, you
society,
may
it makes perfect sense.
like you may have trouble getting even like physically close to someone of an opposing clan. So when
Right.
you're so
Right.
it almost adds to the stigma when you're near someone who you're living in this clan and they can't even get within a certain boundary of you.
That's probably really rare, you would
Right.
assume. But yeah, I mean, there are probably some clans that get along and some don't,
Yeah.
Right.
and some are neutral.
So yeah, those are clan
I like
stones.
it. Clan stones. Yep, they're in your foreheads and in your heads.
Totally.
All up in your heads, Jocko.
Okay, so architecture from John. Every structure is a variation on a mag float, a moving society.
Yep.
And I added, and each is constructed to visually represent the ideals or character of its people.
Right.
So the
that
insides of them, is that what you're talking about, or the outsides?
everything, the whole design, so
I'm
that
thinking about like mastheads right now.
yeah, definitely, but also that the more like brutish group of people would have sort of more like intimidating sharp edges, and the more fastidious people have a more streamlined design to their flotillas. And
I guess there's a question to this too then. Is this a naturalistic society where they would take on like animal personas, or is it a like what like is there a level of abstraction, or is it very like
I
sort of
love the
literal in
idea
the
of
plan?
abstraction.
Okay.
And I love the idea of it not being nature based, because we're so used to that. So to really
Yeah.
create something that's alien is sort of like people who are, instead of drawing these primal sort of connections to nature, are drawing primal connections to design, or geometry or things like that. That sort of fits my idea of what a culture based around magnetism would be drawn to. Yeah.
So I guess too in their symbology, like we can maybe talk about. So we'll get into heroes and characters. Maybe.
Yeah, we will. I mean, I'm feeling what you're saying. I mean, I think what you're saying is and correct me if I'm wrong. This is what I'm hearing, is that each clan has its own sort of design sensibility, which makes perfect
Yes.
sense, and that you can tell that by their ships, which makes also perfect sense.
And probably
to
the
me.
symbols on their stone, like it all
Yeah.
sort of grows out of that.
Yes, yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. I'm getting a real like Airbender vibe off of it, right? Where it's like depending on which empire you live in or whatever.
Oh,
you get
I'm
Yeah,
not
no,
familiar.
Naruto has
Cool.
that kind of thing too, where there's
Yeah.
a symbol for each little place.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
They're both
Very
very
good.
elemental.
very
Right.
good. So that makes perfect sense, and it's not based off animals, because what kind of animals are even in this world? It's like this is a crazy ass world. It's more about how the people move through the dust, right? Like that's the symbol, right? Is like how they perceive their people moving through the dust.
Right.
And then where our haven is, of course, this sort of meeting place. So it's probably a conglomeration of different styles that have been built over many years.
Cool.
Cool. Military. Speaking of the meeting place, the clan heads all answer to the Lord of many goodly things. And I wrote that the agents of the Lord wear a badge, picture of a upturned U like a magnet, and then it has like a sword behind it and then an oar behind it.
Are those magnetic? Those badges? Is there any sort of like?
I feel like the badges are they magnetic? That's their.
Well, I mean, I guess would they have any sort of
I think that
sway or pull in this world? Literally.
I mean, yeah, right. I mean, I think that what the badges are made out of is it's like, oh, it's a melted down like clan cup or something like that. Like that's what these things are made out of.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the Lord of Many Goodly Things is sort of derogatively known as like the clan breaker because of legend in the past.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then maybe the clan cups and then these badges in turn are made of a non-reactive, like a non-magnetic metal.
Right, I guess
Right.
so.
Like
yeah.
aluminum or something. So the next and final step for this world creation is to name the haven.
That's right.
And I kind of want to almost go with our Lord, and feel free to. But why don't we call the world Many Goodly Things?
Yes,
that's great.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that's
Many
awesome.
Goodly Things is the name of the world.
Like it's a sort of a weird like.
It's the name of the place where they're all hanging out. Is yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Is that good?
Yeah, I love town names like that. I grew up in a town called King of Prussia.
I'll run down sort of our world real quick, and then we'll get into
Great.
hero creation.
Yeah.
So we have this haven called Many Goodly Things, at the heart of which is materialism. And the elements that make it up are echo, dust, and magnets. And so how we've defined this is that this is a planet or something that's stripped of a lot of its surface resources and is almost like if you were to pull away all this dust that's flowing around it all the time, you would just see these deep gouges, these canyons that are just massive, and then holes where things have been burrowed and just like these worm tracks, like it's like someone has taken this like waterlogged rotting log and stripped away the bark, and you see all the worm tracks.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a dust ball. It is completely covered in dust except for where some mountains poke their heads up into vicious
kind of
winds.
too,
Exactly,
like
very thin
scored,
and precarious or
Yeah.
scored. Water, very, very rare and hard to find. But because of the powerful properties of the magnets that have actually been burrowed out of this land over time, there are a number of different clans and societies that have grown up on the planet. Echo also is one of our sort of themes. People can echolocate for water using magnets.
Yeah, and I think
using
sounding
magnets,
to travel
sounding
the
to
city.
travel between the
And,
dust.
like inside this, because you can't see.
You
There's
can't
no
see
visibility.
exactly. You're in capsules effectively when
Right.
you're floating around.
So that brings us to our traditions, and I guess we'll start kind of at the top with the military tradition, where the clans are ruled by and answer to the Lord of Many Goodly Things, who runs the militia and runs the military, and you go to him for your justice. You go to him for, he's the quote neutral party.
Yes.
Mostly in that he's got an iron fist, and he can probably sway the clans to do what he wants if there's an outside threat. He's probably the one who musters troops and drafts, commissions people from the clan saying, I need all your able young people to come fight these pirates, blah, 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 like whatever comes through, or says, he's the one who maintains, if there are resource races, he's the one who maintains order and organization and probably takes his taxes and his cut from all that.
Sure.
And he has agents who wear a badge, which is an inverted horseshoe magnet with an oar and a sword at cross behind it.
That's right.
And it's made of beaten down and melted down name chalices.
That's right.
Which takes us to birth.
Yes, to birth, where clan lines are very, very important, incredibly important to people. But at the same time, many people do partner cross clan. It's though it's stigmatized because someone has to go live in a different sort of clan hold, as it were. Clan stones, which is sort of what people wear on their foreheads to mark which clan they're in, kept when marrying into another clan. In that way,
and there's a certain class structure or merit structure within there too, where you, by helping your clan gather resources, by proving yourself, you will get more of these stones on yourself and be able to cast aside other clan affiliation stones that you may have brought with you when you married into the clan. Also tied to this is birth, and therefore then in this thing, the tradition of justice, where the guilty are cast into the winds. They are sent out by the Lord of many goodly things and cast from the society. And they are allowed, though, to keep their birthstone. So every family within the clan are multiple families, and each family has a cup that has names engraved on it. And that's the number of people that they're allowed to actually have in that family, like how many children they're allowed to have, etc. And within that cup, that's what they drink the water from. And there's rituals in that. And it's also where they keep the birthstones for the number of children that they're allowed to have.
Right.
And that birthstone is placed in the belly button of a growing child, and is the first thing that they use to repel the dust, and the first thing that kind of keeps the dust from them.
That's right. And so that leads right into another tradition that we have, which is grief. Jocko, do you want to tell us about your grief?
Yeah. So that the grief tradition is that, no one grieves for the cavern folk, which are these people who get fed up with the materialistic culture, with the collecting of clan stones and the, children as resource, as material good. And eventually, whether it's from underlying sentiment that some good people have, or whether it's, from different means people do from time to time cast off their clans, cast off their life, their families, and head into the caverns. Step off the flotilla, I guess, and into the caverns.
Yeah, they leave their birthstone behind.
Yes, they do.
And the act of leaving your birthstone behind means that your family is punished, which is also sort of the aspect of why they won't grieve you.
Right.
Your name is cut from your family chalice, and that reduces the number of children that family is allowed to even have and maintain. Then the way they gather these resources is they have skim races. There are racers for these clans. They're sort of scouts who go out and race towards resources or go find resources, and then races are set up to see who gains control of them.
It's almost like a gold rush, right?
Right. So they're sort of like they rush out to stake claims, come back, and are given the rights. They win for their clan the rights to get first tap at these veins,
right,
and therefore the bigger share. You compete for this. You also gain glory in your clan and standing and merit and more clan stones perhaps, and probably merit for your family within the clan. And you ride on these hover sleds, these magnet controlled sleds that are this like sleeker, fiddlier, like biplane magnety versions of the flotillas that everything else is moving on, which gets us to the sort of last tradition, which is architecture, that every structure is a variation on a mag float. So the whole society is moving and mobile. So the Lord of many goodly things, once they've found a place that they can go sort out or can go like tap as a resource, says, let's do this. And they start moving the whole city, this whole bubble within the dust, this heavy ferrous iron dust. They float it over to this resource vein, and that's how they deal with their stuff. And importantly, every structure is very you have these sort of.
You can tell which part of the structure you're in by the clan, right? Each clan is represented in the huge sort of haven of many goodly things.
And I'm kind of seeing these almost like mini flotillas. You'd have different structures, different flotillas of different sizes that are all interconnected, and they can probably be cut apart so they can be moved around.
Right.
But all of them will share a design aesthetic
based
on the clan, and that aesthetic even goes down to the very symbols for each clan, and sort of how, and it's an abstraction, it's how they see themselves as moving through the dust and interacting with this world, and maybe some of the virtues that they espouse in how they race and how they go against conflict and how they chase these materials of the world.
Right.
Yeah.
So the next thing we're going to do, and this will be, we'll do this step and then kind of probably pause and continue the actual storyline in the next game, is we're going to generate our characters. And so there are three characters. There's the hero, the fallen, and the pillar. And what we're going to do is define within each of these, the hero is really the center of the story.
Yeah.
He just like the Flaw is the center of the world, the hero is the center of the story. Right. Every conflict and every scene that we set is centered around the hero.
We will all play the hero, which is what makes Downfall such a cool game. That we'll all play the hero, we'll all get a chance to play the fallen, and we'll all get a chance to play the pillar at least once, if not multiple times.
Very cool.
So hero creation is also collaborative. So what we're going to do first is go to the hero. To create him, the first thing we do is, this is something a little bit up here. The hero recognizes the haven's coming doom and tries to prevent it. There are only hope, yet they will fail.
Awesome.
So that's the hero's thing. Now, to kind of build this out, we're going to answer some of these questions on a sheet. The first one is his occupation. So we got to choose a tradition from amongst our 6 traditions here and give the hero a position or role in the haven that relates to that tradition. Cool. So our hero does something within this tradition. What do they do? And, what... How do they play it? Like,
Jocko,
what do they do
is
with
there
this
one
tradition?
tradition that's jumping out at you?
Absolutely.
What's that?
I mean, there's this sort of very classic storytelling structure that's naturally coming out of this all. If the hero is someone who recognizes the flaw, it's super interesting if that hero was, up until this point, very plugged into the flaw. So I think it would be great if our hero is a skiff racer.
Yeah, skiff racer I was looking at. That's a really good one. That sounds great.
Skiff racer it is.
Mm-hmm.
So they are straight up a skiff racer now. Are they the skiff racer for their clan, or are they like, down the rungs for skiff racer? Like where do they, what's their standing within their clan as a skiff racer? And I guess that could kind of lead to what is the, is there a difference between a clan leader and a skiff pilot?
So let's say they do have some position. I mean, they would have to be at many goodly things. Everybody is, I guess, right? Is that what we're sort of saying?
Yeah, they live in many goodly things. Well, I guess where I'm kind of coming is like, is it the sort of like retired eldest skiff racer? Like basically he's got his whole forehead is covered in stones. His face is covered in stones. Like he's wearing a beard of magnets, and he's this retired elder kind of skiff racer. Not our hero as much, but like that's what the clan leader is for each clan. And then the skiff racer is the young blood who could eventually become that. Yeah. And you might even have multiple skiff racers within a clan. Right. So there's because there are also families within clans that can compete too.
Yeah. So how do you see skiffs moving through dust? The only way you can do it is with echolocation. So what we're talking about is entertainment is where echoes come in again, where it's like that's the only way that they can bounce back where these objects are in space to show people how these races are sort of going to some degree.
Right. Yeah. Maybe they even have like a
bat ears.
Or floating in the center of this world of many goodly things is a sphere of dust that like they've crafted magnets inside it. So it's a map of the world. Like it's basically a miniature version of the world, and it even has flowing dust on it.
Right. Sure, that sounds nice.
And within that they use basically like, it's magic, but it's like science and magnets. They bounce signals off of the skiffs, and it goes back to this map, and you just see these little dots, these darts, whether they're light or whether they're like little beads or something. And that's what people watch. Like and this thing, it could be huge, so that people could really see it.
If we're doing skiff racer, then it's someone who is trying to get good with their clan.
I think up and coming is pretty cool.
Yeah, so they're of a
but they have a lot of potential, like a lot of promise, right? If they continue to buy into the system, they could potentially climb it to the top.
Yeah, so
that type of thing.
They're doing good.
I mean, do we want to go to so we'll say Skiff Racer for now, and then go to Rebellion maybe, and kind of see where, like, maybe that'll give us a little more tooth to catch on. Yeah. So Rebellion, we're going to choose a tradition that the hero disagrees with and explain why they oppose it. This can be a different tradition from their occupation or the same one. Maybe his older brother was a cavern folk.
I think that's the way to go. Yeah, that makes the most sort of leads to lots of drama. Totally.
They are opposed to the grief tradition of striking people's names from the chalice. That happened to him and his family. It's been traumatic.
Yeah, like it was traumatic for his family.
Father or mother or someone could have explained why they oppose it. But he opposes it because we're saying someone in his family has turned cavern folk, and he wants to grieve for them.
Right.
And like wants them to be
okay.
present.
Okay.
Like he doesn't want to forget them or
Yes.
Right.
they may have symbolically stricken this name from the rolls, but that doesn't mean he wants that
Right.
to be the case.
That's a really great point that sort of builds out on the grief, that not only is the name stricken, but they're just sort of forgotten.
Yeah, totally.
Right. They're
They
a
are
Non-entity.
wiped from existence. Yeah.
Right.
It's great.
Yep.
Yeah. Describe the hero. What does the hero look like, and what is their name? Is the hero male or female? Do we
either.
have that gender binary on?
Yeah, maybe we don't. Yeah,
Maybe there's.
they are just.
Are they north or south?
Yeah.
Like a magnet.
I mean,
Doesn't matter. I think that in our society too, we're building a society where it's not specifically that they can only men can be skiff
way.
racers.
It's a meritocracy.
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's a meritocracy for sure. So our character's female is a skiff racer. So she has some clout in her clan.
Right.
Is she dressed like a pirate? Is she dressed like a Formula One racer?
I was going to say, I really like the idea of skiff racers almost dressed like
Form fit suits.
form fit or even like more like jumpsuit things, like again, going back to like X-Wing pilots, right?
Right.
Something like that. That's sort of
Yeah, that's perfect. And
Jumpsuits
you could
with
even say
tubing.
that there are magnets in the suits that help their,
Sure.
skiffs go faster or whatever the case
Like
is.
lock into like
and
they,
in the
they lock
feet
into
to lock
levers
into
and
place.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Do they wear helmets? Do they wrap their heads and
I
wear
love
goggles?
helmets. I just in general love helmets.
I think they would wear
I think
helmets.
helmets
and
are super
suits,
cool.
yes.
Yeah, like a dirt bike racer. I think is who I'm thinking of
Yeah,
here.
sure.
Like a
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, what is her clan, right? Because then her clan starts to tell
This
us a
is
little bit
very
more
true.
about what the design sort of mantra is.
Well, so let's walk through. Like, let's say right off the bat, let's kind of list out maybe 4 or 5 of the higher echelon clans.
Sure.
Right? Like, like we said, there may be like 40 different clans in this thing.
Yeah, we
and with
did.
each one, there could be a few families or multiple families. So basically, let's pick like a few of them as sort of our big ones and say they're again, maybe not one of the, they're all kind of around the same power levels or something, but
Sure.
like she'll be one of those, but let's
Yep.
describe some of those and then see which one we want her to be in. Does that make sense?
That makes
Yeah.
perfect sense.
Cool.
Do we just want to call them by precious stone names or something like that?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So
cool.
like Opal, shouldn't have clan Opal,
Sure.
something like that.
Opal, pyrite,
Sure.
Yeah,
sulfur. Well, I mean, these are also like minerals, but
It's fine. It's
Emerald.
There you
Emerald.
Go, yeah.
Ruby.
yeah, I mean, we'll
And
have
then-
like
And then we'll have quartz.
onyx.
Oh, you like onyx, do you?
Sure.
All right, cool. So
So,
let's just talk about our heroes clan first. Who's our hero? Which clan is our hero?
all right. Well, again, let's go into some of these a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, sure.
Like,
No, that makes sense.
so like your pyrite clan, I almost want them to be like tricksters.
Yeah, of course. You
Yeah.
have to,
They're
because
like-
it's fool's gold. Obviously, they're not to be trusted.
Right.
Everyone knows not to trust Pyrite Clan.
And then like sulfur clan, I just think like explosive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Sulfur Clan is explosive, hot-tempered.
These precious ones, I want to hop into these in a sec, but like these like quartz is simpler, maybe.
quartz
Right.
is
I
good.
like a very sort of no nonsense clan or a very like less flashy.
Yeah, they're just there. They keep things moving.
Practical,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
where they're
think
just
so.
very,
Yeah,
know,
makes sense.
by the book, and
Yeah.
Right.
like they're the ones who are less likely to sort of vie for, or if they are vying for power, it's a long game. They're pragmatists.
I mean, Onyx to me says that this is a clan that is all about like protection or like banking or something like that. Like that they're all about.
Maybe. Well, I was kind of thinking like secrecy, like a Black Mirror.
Sure.
Oh, cool.
So we're so like, well, the pirate guys are like tricksters and they'll like sabotage you. The Onyx, they're the guys who barter in secrets.
And then we get to, and I think it's interesting that we've left these last, but we get to, Opal, Emerald, and Ruby, which I think are kind of the like,
They're like the highest ones, probably.
they're the
right?
3 hero ones.
They're
Yeah,
kinda
the
flashy.
highest. Yeah.
I mean, do we want to limit those then? Like almost say like, let's pick one or two, like one of them? I don't know.
Sure.
Well, let's go with Opal because that was
Yeah.
your first one out
Cool.
the gate.
Opal's great. They are the clan that is known for having the best skiff.
They're just like the
riders,
most
right? They're
adventurous.
the best at the game. They're born corsairs.
I mean, within a certain degree, like everybody is kind of trying to get one over a little bit.
Sure.
What they
Joie
s-
de vivre, is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
or also like what they say is true.
They are
Like sulfur
people
is
of their words.
right. Sulfur
Yeah.
is also people of the word, but they're usually going to like say something they didn't mean,
Right,
and then have to
right.
back it up.
Right.
Right. Okay, got it.
Whereas
You know-
like opal is very,
Yeah.
they're
Okay.
they're kind of the white hats a little
Yeah.
bit, even
Yeah.
though at the same time everybody's going to push
Right.
every advantage they can get.
Well, and
The
I
Indiana
mean,
Joneses maybe.
yeah,
Yes,
the
that's exactly-
Atreides.
Yeah.
you know,
yes.
from
that's-
Dune, the sort of like-
Atreides, yeah.
Yeah.
Which clan is our hero? Is our clan Opal? Is our hero clan Opal?
That seems like the natural,
Yeah, it's like
Move?
the way, but
but I think the other ones all have shades of sort of like complexity that a hero wouldn't necessarily.
but the hero here is going to rise up out of that a little
Right,
bit and is
right.
bucking against the society in general. So
I
they
could
they
see
could just as easily buck against their
any of those,
any
yeah.
of
Any
the
of them,
clan.
yeah.
Even the quartz, like
Totally.
one of many
Yeah, definitely more.
who
than
is rising up to be,
Take us down the road.
You know what? Let's do quartz.
Quartz.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quartz it is.
Quartz clan.
Quartz clan. So real quick too, let's talk a little bit about Quartz clan. I don't know, like what is the symbology? Are they very like is their stuff built out of things that are more glass and transparent?
Blocky and geometric. I'm thinking. Like,
Okay.
Right. That's really interesting. The transparent aspect of it, I do like that. That the quartz, it could almost be, if you squint, it could look like skyscrapers, right?
So it's like smoky,
like a
or no-
city almost,
Yeah.
like
But
as
yeah, it's
we
like
know it.
So you're saying like heavy, like good sharp geometry, structures that sort of spike up, maybe
Right.
a little more like lateral.
Right, and those broken off plateau tops, I really like
Right.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, and so then that would just kind of flow throughout. Like they would,
Yeah.
be like their gems are very geometric and like kind of straight up, like so
Very
very
cool.
quartz crystally, right?
Yeah.
Yes, definitely very blocky. What is this person's name?
Oh yeah. Well, do we want to give her? So she's quartz. So their names come on these cups.
It's
Right.
true.
And are there like a limited number of names within the family? Like, so is it sort of like you have your family name, your clan name, and your surname? That's like the surname is what's on the cup of the family, and then that's within the clan.
I feel like a name is almost like too individualistic for this society. Like you are a resource, so it's like you are whatever stone is in your forehead. You are like that sort of thing. Like so, your name changes maybe over time.
As you
your first
gain
name changes.
accolades.
Yeah, your first name changes, but your family name and your clan name remain the same.
So quartz would be somewhere like in her family, like so it'd be
That's
like
her clan name, right?
yeah, so something quartz or quartz something,
Yeah.
right, for her. And then what's a family, like what kind of family names do these guys have? Like we have like sort of stones and elements for clans. Do families take a different tact? Maybe it's tied to like because it's like quartz is a very geometric planar kind of thing.
Right.
So they're named after like simple geometric shapes.
It could be.
Yeah,
It could be. It could be like square. Is there
Or yeah, like
circle?
plane,
Plane, yeah.
like quartz plane.
right.
Or we can play with that. So like
Yeah.
plano or something. Or
Yeah. It could be. I mean, because I was thinking of something like break, right? So or something like edge.
Right.
like intersection or
Yeah. Right.
triangle head.
Yeah.
Triangle man.
Triangle man. Triangle man.
Facet is another.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Angle,
Yeah, angle. Let's go with that one.
quartz angle.
Yeah, angle family.
Well, so it
Or is
would
it
be
angle
something
quartz?
quartz angle or angle quartz.
Right.
I like quartz angle better. I like angle
Yeah, let's do
quartz.
that. Quartz angle sounds good. And then they need a first name within that.
I mean, if the stone is changing in her head and it's showing progression in the society, and if that's tied to what they're named,
And she's a skiff racer
Right.
currently of like a
Right.
certain class.
right?
Racine.
I was gonna say rising. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds good. How do you spell that, John?
Racine.
Okay, Racine. Very good. We got it. We got the hero.
So Racine quartz angle. So when she's
Racine quartz angle.
racing, she's got. I mean, she probably always kind of has this tight suit. What is? I mean, part of me sees these people as like nomadic, like you're always wearing a scarf.
Yeah, I don't even know what you make the
And
suit out of.
goggles.
I mean, I guess you're going to be making out of cloth that you're producing somehow, which I don't even know how these people are producing cloth at this point, but whatever. But magnets are part of the jumpsuit. I really like the motocross with the helmet.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
this is almost like you're gearing up to go do this thing if you're going to be going to
Totally.
skiff race.
I mean, I kind of see like the helmet is a little more open with like goggles on,
Yeah.
with
Sure.
like with
Really
like a
cool.
periphery, and
Sure.
then like they kind of all wear like scarves because they're going fast enough. The magnets keep a lot of the dust away, but still like they need to
Right.
And they're
protect.
looking at echolocation equipment to figure out where they're going when they're in the dust, right?
Yeah, so it's maybe it could be a readout, or
Yeah.
again like maybe it's almost like a compass
Mm-hmm.
where they
Right.
have these like divining
right.
stones that kind of
That's right.
float.
Or
in-
maybe it's the stones in their head, right? Maybe it's like the things that
that they
are
can, like
a
they
part
have
of
like
them.
ways
Their
they can
stomach.
sound with it.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's really
their
cool. So
lodestone,
if you become a cave folk, it's really hard for you to navigate.
Yeah.
Right. Any other distinguishing features she might have visually? Like, does she have striking?
Do our people have hair? Do people have hair in this society? Like
I think
on
if
their head?
they wear helmets and stuff, yeah, they
can
can
have
have
hair.
whatever
Yeah.
hair. I don't. Let's give her like long
long hair is great.
hair, maybe like a dirty blonde kind of thing.
Sure.
I don't know. Everyone on this world has blue skin or something like that.
I mean, maybe they're all kind of reddish
Sure.
because it's like also like they're all kind of oxidized iron a little
Yeah.
bit too.
Yeah, they're reddish.
Cool.
Sure.
Like, but we could also have different hues for different people.
Sure.
Right.
If you want.
Maybe she has like clear eyes, which is really rare, and
Really
kind of
cool.
like everyone else kind of has different, normal natural hues like we have, but
Right.
she
Okay.
has these clear eyes that
Clear eyes.
like make her sort of like a well regarded amongst the courts.
Right.
Because
And there are people in every clan who sort of these rare people who have this marking
that is true to the
Right.
color of their clan.
right.
So now we're actually going to move to our next character,
Yes.
Yeah.
who is the Fallen.
The Fallen's awesome, Jocko. So the Fallen is the person who is completely of the world and of the Flaw.
Cool.
They are the person who is going to be the cheerleader of the Flaw and the person who very much, is not necessarily a direct antagonist to the hero, but they're definitely the person that is...
They're out to make the trouble for the hero.
Yes. Yes. I guess they are sort of an antagonist for the hero.
But
Great.
the important thing is that then this is the first question. We want to find the relationship first. Are they? This is sort of this quick choice: family, friend, guardian, leader, lover. And so we want to tie them very closely. So we're going to right away assume that they're of the clan.
I think that makes sense that they're part of the Quartz clan as well.
So is this the leader of the clan? Is this a family member? Younger, older, whatever? Is this a friend, a fellow skiff racer within the clan?
It doesn't necessarily have to be in the clan. It could be Racine's father, mother, whoever just left and became a cavern dweller. This could be a extra curious enforcer for the Lord of Many Goods, or of Many Goodly Things, who is on the lookout to see if other family members are...
Could be the lover of Racine is this guy, or again maybe he's the protector who is assigned to the clan or to the family. Maybe a family is given.
I kind of like that a lot. If we're saying that this person is their lover and this person has been in the clan after the family member disappeared to do exactly what you're
Right.
saying.
has almost
to-
been assigned to the clan to
assigned
make
to
sure...
the clan to try and ferret out any other people who are thinking about leaving. And in so doing has met Racine and they've started a relationship.
fallen in love.
So he's an agent of the Lord of Many
he is.
Things.
He is an agent of many goodly things.
So that's the basic one. He's Racine's lover,
Yep.
and he was sent to explore. Oh, and I guess we've also answered the next question.
Cool. Good.
Sent to explore this recent loss in their family.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. Just it's almost like thought police style. They're showing up to make sure no one else is thinking about taking off. And so
Or maybe to enforce the grief.
yeah, or maybe make sure no one's grieving, which
Yes.
is even more fucked up because she really wants to grieve for her
Right.
lost family member.
Occupation. What does he do?
Occupado.
What tradition is your occupation connected to? So I think
I think we got
nailed it.
Justice or military, I guess you could go with either of them.
Either one.
I guess
Yeah.
it's more military, honestly.
So here's something we can maybe get a little more, since we've kind of gotten this in there. Maybe where are they in the military? What is their
Sure,
so
sure.
we're kind of saying
they
they're
are
enforcers.
an agent. They're an agent of the Lord of many goodly things. They have the symbol of that they carry around, almost like KGB, like total secret service, or rather NSA, however you want to term it.
So this is a question within
Espionage
that. Like, are
arm.
there different strata of these guys? Like, are there the guys who are straight up like the thug, like bouncers, and then there are the like
I feel
the
like-
informants, and then the secret agents, and the
Yeah, I feel like they are extensions of the Lord, and so their power is just like they just have the power. They just waltz into a situation.
so they're kind of
"This
like
is what's-
knights,
Yeah, this is what's
Right.
happening.
right? Because a knight would be like or samurai, like where they're given
Yeah.
a power by the master of this fiefdom,
Right.
and hold sway.
Right.
Basically, they hold
Yeah.
the letter of
Yeah.
the Lord
Yeah.
and can do what they want with
Yeah,
it.
that's true.
Describe him. What does he look like?
Cool.
So it's a guy,
Yep,
right?
he is a
Or
man.
unless Racine does not have to swing that way.
That's true.
It's true.
Yeah, we'll say
Yeah.
it's a man.
So to talk about how they look, it's really interesting because these people exist outside of the clan structure, right?
Yes.
And so I love to think of them as dressing outside of the clan structure,
Yes.
whether that is, sort of by mixing lots of different colors,
Well-
or whether that's like your slate gray, like
Yeah.
imperial officer.
Yeah, I feel the latter, honestly,
Yeah.
because everything else is so flamboyantly vibrantly
yeah.
tied to your clan's outlook.
So here's a question too: how do you become a soldier in there? How do you become a knight of the Lord of many things, many goodly things? Are you requisitioned from the ranks? Are you taken as a child? Are you like how do you gain the
Maybe
position? Are there
when a child is born, but there aren't any lodestones.
They just go to, they're
They
given
go-
to
they're-
the Lord of
they're
many
given
goodly things.
To the Lord of many
and
goodly
he can
things.
choose what he wants to do with
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would mean they have no birthstone.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yep.
So maybe they just kind of have exposed midsections.
Maybe, but I mean, yeah.
To show off their lack of birthstones.
Because
And
that's like
that's
a
why having
sentinel status.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
That's why having the badge is
Does
super
it
important.
go
because
there?
The badge?
Like goes to their belly button.
Uh,
Is that too much? Could go on their forehead too.
I
You kind
guess.
of like it on their heart. Well,
I
no,
don't
where do you
I mean,
feel?
belt buckles make sense to me, like that sort of area.
Sure, yeah,
you
that's
know.
good.
Cool.
You
I
can have a
love the
midriff
thought-
T-shirt, John.
I
That's-
love
I'm
the
totally
thought
okay
of
with
like
that.
an imperial officer with a midriff.
All right,
Yeah.
that's exactly what
Suppose.
this guy
Really
looks
cool.
like. Imperial officer with midriff T-shirt. That is.
So it's
Yeah.
sort
his
of like
vibe.
like sharp corners,
Yeah.
gray, black
Yeah.
gloves, black boots,
Yeah.
gray pants, but like cut off from like basically like kind of his pecs are peeking out a little bit,
Yeah.
Sure.
and you just see like
he's
his
cut, man.
yeah,
He's-
I mean,
You
it's
see his,
important.
ready to
his
go.
naked belly button.
Does he have any weapons?
Yeah, that was a question I was about to ask.
The badge has a sword on it. He's got at least has a sword.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, what if they've got
I mean, how do these people fight? Will they fight with laser swords? No. Are we going Star Wars?
Well, that's the thing too. So maybe combat is like very like judo, hand to hand
Right.
kind of stuff, and so it's really about using force against your opponent and
Right.
like directing. You're also playing with like how does your magnetic field work with theirs, and you may have some magnets like we're saying. Some of them have
Yes.
magnets in their suits,
Yeah.
and so
And I would think
good
that
point.
actually that is really interesting that, somebody who does not have any magnets on them could be completely deadly compared to someone who does have magnets, who
Right. Oh, that's
is moving
interesting.
without forces pulling and pulling on him or her.
That's an interesting take. on it.
If everyone's fighting, knowing that they're, compensating for the fact that their magnets are either going to attract or repel, these people can sort of walk outside of that.
right, but they themselves also don't have any of the natural defenses that the other people get by having birthstones or having other magnets
Right.
on them.
Right.
Maybe
They
they have
smash
maybe they
their
have a
ships
non
into each other?
they have a non-magnetic weapon, like their sword is
Right.
aluminum or nickel or
Plastine.
whatever.
Or made out of stone.
Yeah, and
Made
so
out of the stone of their clan.
yeah, I mean, but we'll basically do the knights are the only ones with swords, and maybe like kind of like samurai, that sort of thing.
I think that makes more sense. And they're made out of glass, let's say.
Sure. Yeah, like like an obsidian /
like a glass. Yeah. Yeah. Everyone else has sort of like.
Maybe it's like all like pellets and like fling, not like bullets, but like they kind of fling these things that are almost like slings that they use their magnetism to flick these slings, and people have like shields that they use and just like ways to deflect it, and then it really comes into hand to hand.
Yes, it does. Yeah, hand
Because
to hand is key. Yeah, dueling and hand to hand is key.
And it may be more like you're saying naval battles where you sort of it's more about getting up on them so you can board.
Yeah.
Right.
Then
Just like pirate style.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that these agents do far more banishing than killing.
So let's see. This guy, he's tall.
Yeah, he's tall. Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Cut
like a julienne salad.
Same deal, reddish skin.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like maybe he's very ruddy, like
Sure.
like kind of a deep, like scarlet color.
Yeah.
So.
Except for a white scar
Oh, Jocko.
on his face.
White scar on his face. What's this guy's name? Because he doesn't have a clan.
Yeah. So are they like sirs?
Sure. Yeah, I like
What
that.
if they're sirs but also numbers because they are assets to the Lord?
Yeah, man. I mean,
Sir
yeah, we could
842.
go that way.
Well, would the Lord name them? Like, because that's something too. He kind of takes and names.
Yeah.
That's true. So maybe they would have names if he's chosen them to be.
Because they're like his
Yeah.
things, and naming is very like possessive.
How about just will, since he's the Lord's will?
Yeah, the guy's got like the Lord of many things has got kind of an ego.
Yeah.
So he's Sir Will.
Yeah, he's Sir Will.
There is a Sir Mine walking around.
And even the women are sirs in this. Like
Yeah.
it's a knight.
Totally.
It's a knightly moniker.
Great.
All right.
Okay, so
Final character
is
the
the
world
pillar.
building. The pillar is really interesting, Jocko, because the pillar is the person who is fully of the haven.
Right.
They are the person who's like your everyman.
They're the normal
Like, they
person.
are just the person who's just living here day to day, just trying to survive, just doing it, right? They can't conceive of a world that is not this, because this is their world, right? So it's neither good nor bad. It just is their world.
Right.
They're the pillar.
They're complacent within the description. They want to push the hero towards accepting the status quo, and they're going to be apologists for the flaw.
Cool.
Yeah.
They're going to say like, hey, they aren't going to talk the hero out of doing something, nor are they going to participate with the hero unless we really give the pillar a push, and they'll go. That puts them in a different category.
Right.
But they're someone who is going to willfully ignore the flaw when it's bad stuff is in their face, and accept, like you're saying, the status quo, accept the good things. And the pillar is going to resist change, apologize or ignore for harm caused by the flaw, and their role is to complicate and support the hero while upholding the flaw. While the fallen is actively leveraging the flaw to thwart the hero as much as they can.
Right.
So real kind of the similar thing. We're going to start off with relationship and the same categories: family, friend, guardian, leader, lover. It's very close. Like we want close ties with these characters, because the tighter it is, the easier it is for us to get our story traction going. Yeah. We'll walk through a few of them. So family could be the remaining family member, brother, sister.
Right.
If the mother or father is left,
That
it's
works.
the other one.
Yeah, it works. Like the one who isn't grieving.
Right. This could be the friend, another skiff racer,
Right.
another person within the strata.
Like, hey, focus on this.
Yeah. Guardian / leader kind of be like, it could be leader could go all the way to being like boss skiff man.
Or like coach or something. If there are
And
coaches.
guardian could be very much like a retired skiff
Right,
racer
right.
who's
I
apprenticing.
love that. Yeah.
And then, again, a second lover or an ex-lover.
I mean, I'm happy to go with coach. I like that one, Jocko.
Sure,
that's
sort
the
of
way
like
we wanna
retired.
go.
So
Tires,
do
That's
you want to
really
say like
cool.
guardian?
Yeah, I think
I
guardian,
think guardian
is good.
is a good way to go. Yeah.
And like retired skiff racer.
They're from another clan. They married into courts.
So they would keep
They're married.
they
in.
haven't lost their name, but they skiff raced for a while.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
they may have gained the court's name back.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I mean,
Because you can gain clan name, right?
yeah. If you go to another clan, you take your shit with you. Remember, you take your clan stone with you.
Right, but can you
Can
earn
you
your way
switch it
out
out?
of it?
Of course, you should be able to do that.
Like a merit
but I don't
thing?
think this guy did.
He just didn't do as
Why
good.
would he? He's the
Okay.
pillar.
All right, cool.
You know, it's like he's very proud to be whatever clan
Split.
he's
Cool.
from. And he married in to Quartz.
Cool. So occupation, what does he do? What tradition is the occupation connected to? So we're kind of thinking skiff racing
Yeah,
again?
he's a coach. He's a skiff racing coach. He's a retired skiff racer. He's tied to entertainment tradition.
Cool.
So he's a retired skiff racer turned coach.
Has been coaching them and helping them attain the next level in their career and
Giving them some
skill.
tips from
all the
his
tips.
clan.
And he's probably seen some crazy shit because he's from a different clan.
Yeah. So describe yourself. What does this guy look like?
Grizzled, but bejeweled.
To go along with your samurai thing, like he has the bald head, but like the hair on the back and like the ponytail coming off the back.
Like a top knot? Is
Yeah,
that what it's
top
called?
knot. Yeah.
Like a man bun.
And so does he still wear the skiff guard, or is he like a looser fitting jumpsuit now?
He wears looser fitting jumpsuit. Yeah, he's
like a
retired.
pit crew kind of thing.
Yeah, pit
Yeah.
crew. Yeah, totally. Yeah, grease monkey.
He still has a scarf though.
Yeah,
his
a
racing
scarf.
I kind of feel like we give him an infirmity that is
Sure.
the reason why he can't and doesn't race anymore either. Like something that kind of why he isn't just like continuing to race or chase the thing. Besides,
He
being
has red
older.
skin, right?
Yeah. So he's of a different clan.
He cracked his lodestone. In a race.
Oh, that's kind of cool, Jocko. The G forces on him cracked his lodestone. Yeah,
His
the
birth-
G forces
his
on him
birthstone?
cracked
His
his
birthstone,
birthstone in
yeah.
his tummy.
He flew too fast. There is like an acceptable
Yeah,
sort of
he-
common
yeah,
wisdom
yeah,
speed
he-
limit. And he pushed it?
Yeah, he pushed it. Pushed it to the
Something
limit.
bad happened. So, and because of that, maybe he's kind of like Pigpen a little bit, where like he just
Yes.
has this like erratic array
Yeah,
of
that's-
dust that
that's
kind of
it-
like
That's
chases around
interesting.
him.
Yeah, it's
All right. So, what clan does he hail
yes.
from?
Which clan did he hail from, Jocko?
Sulfur.
Well, also it's sulfur. So,
Yeah.
because remember we were talking about
Right.
like other things. What did we
Yeah,
say?
what's his family name?
What is Racine Quartz Angle?
Quartz Angle. What's his family name? Is the question.
Cloud. No.
Sulfur Cloud. Abraham Sulfur Cloud.
I mean, it could be like I'm kind of thinking like Burst or
Yeah.
Flash
Yeah.
or
Plume. I like Burst
Burst,
as like a family name.
like Sulfur Burst.
What about something like Screed? Something like that. Or
Maybe you could do like
Sulfur.
first name could be like Screed or something.
Screed.
Screed.
Screed
Yeah.
Sulfur Burst. Perfect. We love it. We love
Right.
it. Screed Sulfur Burst. I'm a coach.
Coach Screed.
Coach Screed.
All right. And what's important, we don't need to give the pillar a connection to the fallen.
No.
Because really it centers around the hero.
Great.
So we've generated our hero. We have Racine Quartz Angle. She is a skiff racer who's up and coming within the Quartz clan, and she's of the family
Clan
Angle.
Quartz forever.
Clan Quartz. She is part of this entertainment tradition, but she really is against this grief tradition because she wants to grieve a family member who cast off their birthstone and became a cave folk.
Yep.
So Racine is she's a racer, so she's probably pretty fit.
Yep.
Pretty like probably svelte, like not heavy muscles, but like more wiry maybe.
Right.
Like
And she wears a sick ass suit.
yeah, she's got like a nice
like,
racing suit.
racing suit, like a jumpsuit.
She's got like a big racing helmet.
Yeah, but
and-
it's open face.
Yeah, with like goggles on, like Penelope Pit Crew kind of, and then like a big scarf to protect her from the
That's right.
dust.
That's right.
And when her helmet's off, she has long, dirty blonde hair, and she has reddish skin, maybe more of like so we said the other guy was more like scarlet or crimson, very like
She's
more
of a
red.
rose.
She's like a rose or like a softer kind of pink.
Cool.
But still pretty red. She has a striking clear eyes, which is something that's sort of sought after in the Quartz clan, and has gained her a little bit of like sway in
Yeah.
this material society. They want her eyes. Her fallen in the story is Sir Will. He is a lover to Racine, and he is an agent of the Lord of Many Goodly Things.
which is good and bad.
So he's
but
an
mostly
extension
bad.
of the Lord. He's a knight, and the way these knights are chosen is that when a family has a child but doesn't have enough birthstones, that child is given over to the Lord of Many Goodly Things,
Yeah.
and he decides their fate. And some he allows to become knights, and he names them. So Sir Will is the will of the Lord of Many Goodly Things. That's sort of the extension of his name. So it's
Exactly.
like Sir Will of, like all the knights are
Sir-
of the Lord of Many Goodly
Oh
Things.
yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
So they're all like
Sir Pride of the
yeah,
Lord
exactly.
of
many goodly things. They're all of him because they're his.
Yeah, Sir Will has been super like trained. Think of him almost like secret agent or a CIA member or something like that. He also wears really like clothes like he's from the Empire in Star Wars, like really angrily cut clothes.
Clean cut gray, black gloves, black shiny boots, and that's the uniform for all the knights. And the thing is, knights have no birthstone, so to show off this, they have their shirts cut off just below their pectorals,
Just below the midriff.
so you
It's
see
midriff
their
all day long.
exposed belly buttons and their six-pack abs. And you also see this belt buckle, which is the symbol, the badge
of
the
the
lords of many things, the knights of this lord. And so he is there basically searching out a little bit of information about this. The reason why he's there at all is because of the family member that's turned cave dweller.
Yep, and from Racine's family member. Yeah.
So our pillar in the story is Screed Sulphurburst. He is the guardian to Racine. He is her coach. He's also tied to entertainment and skiff racing. He's a retired skiff racer turned coach. He actually cracked his birthstone in a skiff race, and so dust sort of flits around him.
Right.
Where usually the lodestone is the thing that keeps you clear of dust, your birthstone. He's a grizzled, bejeweled, bald man with a top knot, and he has this loose-fitting jumpsuit and still keeps his old racing scarf, and he proudly still wears his Sulphur clan gem in the center of his forehead.
That's right.
Even though he has these other sort of gems that he's won through time, but he's just kept that on because he's still proud of his Sulphur heritage, stubbornly so. In the face of the stigma that it casts on him.
Yep.
With that, we'll interrupt our story and resume in our next communique. Hey guys, thanks for listening to our setup of this episode of Downfall.
This is going to be nuts.
The world of many goodly things. I am one of your players, John Holt. You can find me on Twitter at Lord Joho. Ken, where can people find you?
You can find me, Ken Breeze, on Twitter, on Instagram, and at my blog. It's all Burling's Beard, Berlings Beard, Burling's Beard. I'll see you guys there.
Great. And you can find me, Jocko Farino, at Jocko Farino on all social media platforms.
All right.
Yeah.
And where can they find your clippings?
And you can find my clippings. Thank you, John. You can find samples of my writing updated weekly at clippings.me/Jocko Farino.
All right. You can find more about the players and engine in our story by visiting boardghost.com. You can attempt to pierce the veil and contact us at BoardGhostWorld on Twitter. Shout out through the ether if you have any desires we can fulfill. Please leave comments and reviews on iTunes or your preferred listening portal. Take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss out on the latest episodes. We'd like to thank Pat Couples for our theme song and interlude music. You can find more about Pat at patcouples.tumblr.com or on his band's page, hotelsandhighways.com. If you're not alone in the void, share our stories. The more they are consumed, the truer they become.
If living is a highway, then heaven is a bus stop. Been waiting for a minute there, or has it been forever? 'Cause dying